Describe why people hate garrisons. The probably people hate why do people hate garrisons? Why do people? That's a big question. That is an enormous question. Why do people hate garrisons? Okay. Sure, we could do that. When garrisons were announced, much like the island sanctuaries that we'll be looking at today, they were described as... Hold on. They were described as your own town that you could customize. And you could construct buildings in it. And you could decorate it. And you could utilize it in your own way. That's what it was described as. Now... when I say that to you, forget that you've played garrisons and you know what they are now. When I describe that coming out, what does your mind do? What does your imagination do? Well, that's a big problem when you make kind of vague announcements like that, is you let the audience draw the picture. Let's suppose you make a movie like Wars of Stars. And you introduce, say, characters with mysterious backgrounds. And you're like, ooh, I wonder what this could be. And you keep all the details about them very vague, right? Like, what is their lineage? Where did this person come from? How did this, like, giant Mega Master come out? We'll call him sort of like Mr. Snook. And you're like, wow, where did Mr. Snook come from? He sounds awesome. Or perhaps you've got this, like heroine, this Mary Sue, who seemingly can do everything. And we'll call her Raymond. And you're like, wow, we'll keep all this backstory vague because we've got to make, say, 3 of these movies in the War of Stars. And over time, we'll allow the audience to sort of predict and see what's going on with Raymond and Snook. And we'll see what's going to happen. And then it turns out to be nothing at all like the better suggestions that you came up with in your forum of fanfiction. So when Garrisons came out, we were all expecting to, like, as a raider, as somebody who's played since the beta of World of Warcraft, I was expecting perhaps I could put up the legs of Ragnaros hanging from my entranceway. Perhaps I could put a Nixia and Nefarian's head on poles. Perhaps I could display Ashkandi in a wonderful way, or these armor sets like Iron Man. Remember Iron Man had that sort of thing in the basement? And you know what never entered my head, and didn't enter the heads of nearly anybody, is, wouldn't this be a really fun way of doing herbalism? That didn't really picture into anybody's head about the garrisons. And they decided, instead of making them cosmetic and purely for fun and something you could invite your friends to share in, we just had Mr. Pandaria, where we had customizable gardens to an extent. So it would logically be the next evolution of that process. What we in fact got was a bunch of predetermined buildings, and your customization was which plot they were in. So, like, some guy, like a fucking animal, would have his stables near the door, whereas cool dudes would have their stables in the middle. And that was kind of what we got, and all of them needed maintenance every single day. But then it got worse. Not only did they need maintenance because you had to unlock your salvage packs, you had to go and get your dailies, you had to turn in your daily dungeons, you had to click your garrison box to get your resources, and so on and so forth. So you had to do all this maintenance of your garrison, which none of it involved any sort of, like, creative flair whatsoever. It also turned into one of the biggest money generators the game has ever seen. And they're not hard to do either. Which then begs the question, why don't I make another garrison on my alt? Because all that does is generate me more money as long as I never fucking leave my garrisons. And all I do is have all my characters in their garrisons, and I just relog between 10, 11, 12 characters clicking these boxes and resources over and over and over again every single day. And everybody in the player base is completely segmented, running maintenance. So, there it is. That's why people hated garrisons. That's why they absolutely hated them. Now, my feelings on this is the garrisons were a good idea. They just implemented wrong. And they should have iterated on it instead of nuclear bombing it from the sky and killing it outright. After, let us not forget submarine missions, where we had to pillage the jungles for crude oil, which is genius. Because, as we know, most gamers have no issue with pillaging natural resources for barrels and barrels of crude oil. Hell yeah, brother! Hell yeah, brother, which was the only iteration we ever saw in Garrisons, was the introduction of the submarine harbour, which, in principle, again, was kind of fun. We got to play Battleship, maybe, is our imaginations, but unfortunately it ended up with us just pillaging the natural resources of Tanaan Jungle for barrels upon barrels of crude oil. I'm surprised they didn't have a set up actual mining facilities. That would have been a thing. You know what I mean? That would have been a dope thing. Ashram was kind of fun. Yeah, it was good. Mission table, but with ships is what it ended up being. Yeah, like most things, it ended up being not what it could have been. Potential is a word I use a lot when it comes to World of Warcraft. As you may have noticed, potential is a big, big word I use a lot, because you throw me an idea like garrisons, and, well, I mean, the story should write itself in terms of what that is. You know what I mean? The shipyard is so fucking stupid. Shouldn't have been.